For those of you interviewing for your residency application, this video is for you. In this video, I interview an associate program director and I ask him a bunch of questions that everybody wants to know. I ask him questions like, what does the program want to know when they ask a candidate, tell me about yourself? What are the checklists that the program used to rank candidates? How can a candidate stand out even though they have weakness or red flag? And also, I ask him questions like, if you have two applicants with the same CV, how do you differentiate and how do you rank them higher? I put a timestamp down below. If you want to go to any sections, you can just fast forward and go to that section so you could get the best out of this video. But make sure you take your time to go through this video. This video is power packed. Every single part of this video is high yield. You don't want to miss it. Okay, so get a pen and get a paper. Let's get to it.
My name is Endurance, and I'm a fellow in UMass in cardiology. I started this channel because when I was going through the whole process of residency application, there was so many misinformation and there were also so many scarcity of information. But the most profound was the fact that there was a huge gap between the applicants and the program directors. And I thought that the program directors, it's not necessarily a responsibility, but I thought that some form of information coming directly from them, will be by far the most important for us as applicants. And we could hear advice from various people, chief residents, program coordinators, but the program director are one, physicians like ourselves, two, they've been in our shoes, and then three, they give us a more up-to-date information. So that's the drive to just having as many program directors give us really life-changing advice. So thank you very much for being here, Dr.
No, yeah, absolutely. And it's a pleasure being here with you. And I think definitely people should take advantage of all this new era of technology and information that we're living in compared to, when I first applied to my residency like more than 10 years ago. We didn't have any of that information. You just have to rely on serving the internet and website and get some advice here and there. But definitely getting more authentic opinion from people in the leadership definitely helps. I would like to say here that anything that I say is actually my personal opinion. It doesn't reflect anything about the program or St. Agnes. It's just my own view. And I'm not a program director. I'm an associate program director. Our program director here he's really great. He's a great mentor. He's very academic and he's very pleasant. So he really gets involved in the process anyways. And I have been doing academic for more than 10 years now. So doing interviews also for that time. But so yeah, it's a pleasure being with you, Andres.
So thank you very much. So for those of you who don't know, Dr. El Hassan is the Associate Program Director of St. Agnes, Fresno in California. And he did his residency in St. Barnabas and has been an academic hospitalist since graduating and an Associate Program Director for over the past 3 years. So it's an honor to have you here, sir. So we're going to just quickly talking about, the applicant's journey and every single part that matters. And of course, the parts that do not matter, that we may, as applicants, pay unnecessary attention towards. And so right now, how would you say, what's going on in your own community? What's the current vibe in terms of interview, recruitment, and just the whole process?
Yeah, it's an interview season, very busy. I think we received more than 3,000 applications, and for the 5 weekdays, we do interviews, almost 3 of them. Just one day that we don't interview. And I think we're going to continue on, throughout November, December, maybe part of January as well. So yeah, we're very excited. It's, of course, since the COVID era, it's not in-person interviews anymore. I'm wondering actually if some programs still do that. I have no idea, but it's all through the cyber world, I guess. Which honestly is kind of missing. We're missing that person-to-person interaction, but still, it's just what it is. What it is.
Yeah, everybody misses in-person interview, but I think it's hard on the program, but it's also easy on the applicants just because,
right?
Just with the visa restrictions and what's been going on. So, giving some of the applicants a chance, I guess.
Right. No, that's true, and especially international medical graduates like myself. It's definitely hard. This arrangement is hard to do so.
And so, can you just give us like a brief, story about your journey, a brief summary of your journey as an IMG to your current position?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Sudan. I did my medical school over there, University of Khartoum, and I graduated in 2003. Practiced over there for a few years, and then I came to the United States. First with a student visa, and then after that, I got lucky. I get the green card. and then that was in 2008. And I did my USMLEs, and then started my residency in St. Barnabas, like you said, in 2010, and graduated in 2013. And then I moved from New Jersey to California. I have a brother and sister here in California, in Sacramento, 2.5 hours here from Fresno. So I decided to, get my first job in California. So I found the academic hospitalist job at UCSF Fresno. I started working with them since 2013, and then stayed there for almost six years. And then I moved to the new program, St. Agnes Medical Center, in 2019, and I stayed with them till now.
Okay, wow, that's great. So the whole journey about practicing in Sudan, coming to the US as a student, getting a green card, then doing residency, it's a journey. The journey that IMGs have to go through.
No, yeah, absolutely. A lot of bumps, a lot of hurdles, but looking back, definitely it was kind of a very exciting journey, and I think I was kind of lucky that I get support from my family, from my brother, my elder brother who lives in Sacramento right now, and I was a little bit of luck and God's blessing. I was able to make it.
Oh, that's good. Okay, well, it's nice to really get an understanding of your journey, because it seems like most IMGs have to go through a lot of testing of our mental strength.
True, yeah, absolutely, you're right.
And so, since becoming an associate program director, what is one thing that you never had sight of, and then you're just finding out for the first time after becoming an associate program director? The things that, as an applicant, you could never have fathomed.
As an APD, I think I'm getting more involved in the application process and interviewing compared to core faculty, which I was before. And definitely the process of reviewing the whole application is really kind of tiring to some extent. But at the same time, it's important. I think important for both parties, for us in the program, but also to be fair to the applicants. We really want to get a good view of the person that applying to your program before if you decide to interview them or not, to give them the real opportunity to go over what they have done so far. And it's quite interesting to go over people's experiences. It's quite appealing, and read over the personal statements and all this personal experiences that they really mention in their applications. And some of them are very difficult. Some of them are really interesting. Some of them are quite regular. That's also cool. But it takes a lot of time. But at the end of the day, really, when you've done your job and you really think that you formed a good view of that applicant, and then of course you give your recommendations to the program director of the committee, whether you think this person really fits the program goals, or whether you want to talk to them and invite them for interviews. So I think getting into the details of the applications is really one thing that's kind of struck me a little bit. It's really tiring. I think people should appreciate the program director's effort in reviewing all this immense applications and doing all this interviews throughout the 3 months. It's a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much for your work. I think we as applicants, we may be a little bit selfish in just thinking about ourselves, just because but yeah, thank you so much for your work, for your hard work. And so, just diving in a little bit about the applicants. Just when you're talking about reviewing applicants, what would you say is your experience? After many years of experience, what would you say? Just experience reviewing applications over the years. What is one foundational lesson you wish every applicant understood before entering the residency cycle?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say try your best to really kind of make the application personal to you. Of course, there's always like a lot of standards, and people will tell you, you should do this, you should do that. And of course, a lot of things are really pretty much straightforward, and you should do them by any means, like making sure that you have written your personal statement in the very right way, and you put all your letter of recommendation, like asking really the right person to write them, and we can talk about that later. But I think really try your best to just, even if you think there's something that is not standard and you think it's important to you and pertains to you, put it there too. Put it in your application. Let us know about it. Don't feel really kind of you're going to be deviating from the norm if you do that, if it really reflects your personality and you think it's important to you. Because at the end of the day, really, it's this process is the programs will really want to know about you, about your personality, about your interpersonal skills, and what you have done so far, and what you have achieved. So yeah, don't feel you really cannot deviate from the standard. If you feel like there's something that you want the program to know about you, and you're trying to see which part of the application kind of fits that, you might figure that out, but you might try to come up with something that's maybe not many people do. And I know that the application process changes a lot now compared to, for example, when I applied to my residency. There's a lot of new features now which I think is really nice. For example, impactful experience. I think that may ask applicants to talk about that. And the geographical preference too, which is also kind of cool. And then, of course, the most fresh one is kind of flagging the program. So all these new features, of course, we still need some time to kind of figure out exactly how they're going to work out and how exactly most of the programs will perceive them and interpret them. But it's still, this is something that you should take advantage of. And again, just really make your application, try to make it as personal as you can.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much for that. And just like a follow up to that, you talked about personal statements. I'm just curious, have you ever read a personal statement?
Oh, I think this is my phone. Sorry.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. Okay, are you okay?
No, it's just a text message.
Just you talk about personal statement, and just follow up to that question. Have you ever read a personal statement that changed the way you view an applicant? So maybe the applicant was just was okay, but then you read a personal statement and you're like, oh my goodness.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. Personal statement, I think, can go either way, right? Definitely. The last thing you want is to have a personal statement that's going to harm your application. And luckily, honestly, I haven't seen many of that. Like too short, too long, a lot of grammatical mistakes, a lot of repetition. People are getting really good at writing reasonable personal statement, I would say. So definitely, number one, that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't really harm your application. Now the question is it just a regular personal statement that you read it, you kind of enjoy it a little bit, and then you move forward to the next application part, right? Versus like what you said is, oh my goodness, yeah, that's kind of quite a story. And yes, I mean, the first paragraph remains, in my opinion, probably the most important one, because when I'm going to start reading your personal statement, I'm going to start with the first paragraph. So getting a catchy story, getting a catchy sentences, yes, that's always emphasized. Maybe people see it as a cliche, but it's important. That's kind of the introduction for anything. Anything that's when you introduce to a person, really, it's kind of the first impression, right? So the first impression we got is from the introduction and from the first paragraph. So yes, pay a lot of attention to that. And again, even the story part, it doesn't have to be a classic story. Even if you don't want to start with a story, start with a sentence that really makes me think, hey, I want to read this. I want to get to the bottom of what he said at the beginning. I want to know what he mentioned, about his art linking to his medicine or his journey in that country where he had really almost was about to die or something, And it makes me read the rest. And then me personally, I like having a connection between each paragraph and the one before, and of course it would be even like really eye-catching if the last paragraph is kind of linked to the first paragraph somehow. I think the people who are able to do that, I really enjoy reading that. I feel like it's one unit, and they're really paying attention to it and make it interesting in that way. And it's just kind of, I feel like I remember it after I have read it, and that's what really makes me think, you know what, yeah, this is quite a story. I think it would be nice to kind of have this person come in and talk to him about this personal statement. So yeah, it's called personal statement for a reason. It should be personal, really. It really should be personal. It shouldn't really reflect your resume. Of course, you can bring some stuff from your resume, because a lot of the stuff in the resume is still personal stuff, right? So it's okay to do that. But especially the aspect that you think is important to you. But at the end of the day, just try to make it one unit. Try to come up with something that's, again, very personal, and make the person think that, hey, I want to read this. There's maybe there's something vague at the beginning that you'll invite the reader to go through the rest of the personal statement to discover that vague thing. So yeah, writing is a skill, to be honest. But I think it will be quite obvious for like those who really put some effort writing it and rewriting it and sending it to some people to help them refine it. Sometimes you can feel that. And then it's, of course, nowadays with the AI, it's going to be the challenge how to kind of sort out if it's really genuine or not. I think that would be really the next step for programs, how to figure that out. Of course, as humans, you still get a sense from when you read a letter, is it really artificial or not? But down the road, I think it's going to be more and more difficult. We'll see.
Okay, so I mean, what would you say? Do you think that the programs don't encourage the use of AI, or they want original, polished by AI? What is the take on the use of AI in applications for residents?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, it's a field that we really need a lot of information down the road to kind of figure that out. But I would say definitely you can get some help from AI. I mean, honestly, I see it like just consulting an expert, right? Go over this and tell me if there's anything that I need to do. But definitely, it just gives you advice. Like maybe you finish your personal statement, you put it on your own words, and then you pull it to AI. Hey, do you have any suggestions? And then you go over the suggestions and see which suggestions fit your personality, and you can use that. That's fine. I think for me, that's probably okay. Maybe what is not okay is really just to have most of it being created by AI. That's going to be a little bit not. I think it's still going to miss that personal part, and maybe the reader might not feel it, especially those who have been reading a lot of previous original personal statement before the era of AI. They might feel it different. I think. I don't know. We'll see.
So it's a black box, but yeah, I understand. Use your 100% originality and then some consultancy polish. That makes a lot of sense. And let's talk about the interviews themselves. So we know that the applicants, they submit the application is impressive, and then they are called for interviews. Just talking about the interviews, what would you say in an interview? Because you go through a lot of patients, a lot of applicants, there's a tendency that you will forget most of them, right? And so what is that quality? What is the thing that makes an applicant memorable?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Most of the programs, like you said, probably at least the way some of the programs do it is really kind of have the faculty after they have done the interview is to really mention at the end of the interview, their opinion about the candidate and how the interview experience, right? And have some people use some numbers, some like comments, whatever the program uses. But I would say it's really that, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes, just like really at the end of it, did that candidate connect to you? Was it, I would say probably one thing that you can tell if that connection happened or not is the time. Did you really realize that, the 15 minutes are gone? For the interview time, right? Like you really have enjoyed talking to that person. That it's they give you that 2-minute warning or whatever. Oh, it's already 2 minutes warning. Okay, I don't want to not give you an opportunity to ask questions. So I will leave this 2 minutes for you to ask me questions. These kind of things. So that you really enjoyed talking to that person. You actually didn't realize the time have run away. So it's really that connection. The person was, of course, eye to eye contact was good. They were really when they answer the question, it's not too long answer, it's not too short. There was a back and forth communication between the two of you. It's not all you, it's not all them. Almost like 50-50, that would be good. I always tell the candidate or the resident before the interview, like as an advice for them, really don't just answer the question, maybe add a little bit to it, but don't make it too short, don't make it too long, right? And then really just sharing personal experiences and just smiling. I think smiling is key. It's really hard to connect to someone who doesn't smile during 15 minutes. You're like, what's going on with this is a little bit concerning, maybe a little bit of red flag for me. But yeah, that I think probably for me usually it's a good sign that I didn't realize the time when I was talking to this person. I think it's just he was able to get me connected to him or her.
Yeah, that's great to know. So if the time passes without both participants knowing, that's a great sign.
Okay. I think, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the follow-up question I was going to ask is the question that I think every applicant is banging in their head. And the question is, how do I do that? How can I make that happen?
Yeah, preparation, of course, is key. Knowing your application very well is another key. Knowing what to expect. Sometimes in your application, if there's something that you're not sure about, you think that the programs will ask you about it. Be ready. And of course, there's always these common questions that programs ask, like tell me about yourself, why this program, any challenges that you have faced so far, how's your U.S. experience so far for international medical graduates, these kind of things. How did you find the observership that you had in this program? Did you know anyone in the area? Have you been to the city before? So I think people nowadays are aware of this. So it's really a matter of be prepared. And I would say be careful of too much rehearsals, because sometimes if you really do too much rehearsals, you will be fixating on your answer and you might not be seen as a good listener, because you rehearse so much. You want to get an opportunity to say what you rehearsed, and you forget to interact with the person in front of you. He's asking you something and you're replying something else, because in your mind, you want to say this. This is what you practiced before the interview, and you just want to say it. So I will feel as an interviewer that he's not listening. He's really deviating a little bit from what I ask him or her. So being a good listener, I know exactly what they're asking about, and if you don't really, you should be ready to be asked an unexpected question or even deviate a little bit from what you prepared for. I think that's important. Of course, we understand that there's still going to be a lot of anxiety. There's still going to be a lot of hesitation. I mean, it's just natural, right? This is a high-stakes interview, and it really has a lot of weight on your future. We understand. We got it. And anxiety is normal. But if you practice, how to kind of minimize the anxiety threshold, we can see it. We can feel it. But again, sometimes I feel like some people, kind of do too much rehearsals, and they just feel like they're monotonous. They're just saying what they practice too much, and they're really hard for them to deviate from what their practice. So one thing I usually ask my residents to do when they're going for a fellowship interview, for example, is to practice that process by seeing themselves in a video, multiple times before they go for an interview. It gives you a lot of perspective about your tics, your body language, your words, things that you tend to do that you don't know that you're doing too often, unless you record yourself. So that's one good way. So practice is key, but at the same time, be ready to kind of deviate a little bit from what you've practiced.
Great, that's great insights. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so practice, but don't practice too much.
No, that's how I see it. I mean, honestly, people might people are different. So depending on how much, whatever makes you comfortable, I would say. Is it just practicing 3-4 times or more or less? Whatever really makes you comfortable, I think that will be your goal. And again, have someone from outside telling you what they're seeing by recording yourself and send it to a friend or a faculty that or someone else. Even someone, sometimes we get good advice from those who are outside of the medical field, because it's a human-to-human interaction, right? So anyone with a reasonable judgment, they have some experience, even outside of the medical field, they still can give you some good insight about your body language and that interview. And one thing also is of course the professionalism during the interview, right? I think this is really key. I want to, of course, I don't expect you to be in like a fancy room, with all this, perfect light and perfect sound and perfect internet connections and all that. But at the same time, if you're not really having the good attire during the interview and you're not really paying attention to your background, right? Your the light behind you. I kind of want to see your facial expressions, right? I want to have a good video image there. So this also is important. I think it's and this is something the candidate should be able to know beforehand, right? You should open your camera up and your video and try to, be ready, because once you're in, it's a little bit difficult to try to change things. So this is kind of part of professionalism too, as well as when they start their interviews. But I think really just that connection, you're able to make that connection between you and me during this limited time. I think that's what really make me put you at 5 out of 5 and really recommend you for the high rank after the end of the interview.
That's good to know. And just to follow up to that specific question about how to make yourself memorable, how to connect with the interviewer, can you recall an applicant who stood out during the interview and what was their specific interaction?
Yeah, it's honestly it's hard to explain. I would say it's really a lot of, like, for example, my recent experience. Whenever I see a candidate who's like really strong academically, one thing I would like to know, okay, so they're doing well with their academic, high scores, good performance in medical school, everything in paper looks fine. During the interview, I'm not gonna, really focus on that anymore, right? I know about that part already from their application. My concern would be can this applicant with this strong academic background, do they have this personal connection? Am I able to make them smile? Are they able to really say something interesting or funny about their journey, right? Are they having eye-to-eye contact all the time? Are they really listening to exactly what I asked them about? They're able to reply back based on their personal background and on what we have discussed so far in the interview, not necessarily what they have practiced. So I would say generally I like to kind of make them at ease, and I like the candidate who really kind of add some fun and humor during the interview. I think that really makes me, especially those who are strong academically, when they add that to the interview, I feel like, okay, that's someone who really is well-rounded. It's not just they're really bookish and they're really all into, this fancy syndromes, medical stuff, and it's hard to connect with them, right? Because that might be concerning for some people sometimes, because if anything goes wrong, it might be hard for me as their faculty when they are rounding with me to deviate them, because, they have this background of I'm doing very well academically, I must be really the best resident, and it's hard for me to kind of correct them. So my goal during the interview is this academically well-oriented person is the one that I'm going to have hard time teaching, right? So again, I come to the interview with the background that I have seen in the application, and for example, if someone who was really has been away from medical school for some time, for different reasons. They graduated more than 5 or 7 years, maybe sometimes even doing something that a little bit outside of medicine. Then I will, during the interview, I will maybe pay a little bit more attention to the medical part and try to get a feeling, if are they really too far from medicine now, or they're not. So my question will be a little bit directed into that direction to try to tease that out. So I'm trying to make it individualized, but at the end of the day, it's really the connection, coming in the interview, knowing what are your deficits, what are the gaps that you need to fill during the interview. So for those, like I mentioned, for those who are academically strong, it's the personal connection and the kind of the human part. For those who are maybe not so well academically strong, they really need to kind of prove to me during the interview that they still know medicine, and they're still connected to the field of internal medicine for me as internal medicine faculty, and convince me, hey, yes, maybe my score is too high, but I really have put a lot of effort in my research was internal medicine stuff, or I did this 3 months externship in ICU that really strengthened my medical knowledge in hospital medicine or critical care, and it can help you with that if you join your program. So know your gaps and try to fill these gaps during the interview. I think that's what will make me really impressed that I have complete picture now about this candidate. But again, I know it's a little bit lengthy answer to your question, but I think for me, really kind of the connection and the humor is important part that I want to see during an interview in the candidates.
Great. Thank you very much. So I don't think it was lengthy. I think it was just comprehensive enough for us to get to depth, because like you said, it's difficult to explain, and I'm thankful that you went, you took the time to kind of go through breaking it down for us. And, so just talking about that same connection, and you said that the commonest questions, we should be ready for the commonest questions like, tell me about yourself. Now, I guess the question, follow up to that question is, when the programs say, tell me about yourself, what are they genuinely hoping to learn from that answer? What is the program trying to learn from that answer?
Yeah, I would say is really knowing what's important to you. What are the key aspects in your resume that you put more weight to, and you really probably affected you the most? Because honestly, you're probably going to start with your kind of chronological journey, but there's always like some stations that you think are more important than others. And when you're trying to summarize things about you, I would like to know that. I would like what stations are more important to you than others, and then I can take the conversation from there. Because one thing I usually try to use that question is, okay, this is what's important to him or her. Maybe the follow-up question was most likely would be related to that, because this is the thing that they seem to focus on when they answer that question about themselves. And then I have something to start with, because I really want to give them opportunity to. I want them to succeed, right? So I want them, if this is important to them, then if I ask them a question about this, they're most likely be comfortable answering that question, and then we can take it from there. I think I'm trying to make the interview process smooth for them. So I want to know how should I start the interview. So I try to come up with something based on what they told me during this question. And I almost always start with this question: tell me about yourself, because this is one of the goals that I have in mind out of this, is really try to know you from your perspective, what's important to you, and then I can have the next 2 or 3 questions based on what you told me to kind of give you a lead, maybe kind of hopefully that will make you comfortable, open up to us, because at the end of the day, I want to know you, because you will be on my team maybe, so I want to make sure that you fit the program. I want you to open up and feel comfortable talking about yourself. So I want to give you the lead, and you tell me, what I will ask you for the next few questions.
Yeah, that's really great. Just thinking about that question being the setup for the next few questions is quite liberating. So you are.
Yeah, and the candidate can take that advantage for themselves, right? They can say something, make an emphasis on something that will make the faculty interested in that, and then they can talk more about it, right? And you already assume that you already practiced that, so most of the interview time will be about something that you're comfortable with. So hopefully you do well, and you have all the easy conversation, and that will give you high scores, of course, at the end of the interview.
That's a great way to put it. I never really thought about it that way, but I think just having the applicants know that this is it's like you are setting yourself up for success or failure based on how you answer. That's a great way to put that. That's really great.
Yeah. And again, don't make it too short. Don't make it too long. Something in between, based on your experience. So if it's too short, oh my God. Okay, so I will look into my list of questions and then I have to figure out what question I will ask. If it's too long, it can drive me away from the core essence of what you said, and I wouldn't be able to make the right follow-up question for you. So yeah, again, it's hard to explain sometimes, but don't make it too short. Don't make it too lengthy.
Okay, and I would say that, now that we're talking about connection, tell about yourself, in general, from start to the finish, what would you say differentiates an excellent interview from an average one?
Yeah, I would say again, if someone who I was able to remember when I end the interview and I put in my recommendations and scoring system and the comments and all that, a lot of times it's easy for me to write something about this candidate. He or she was able to kind of really highlight to me something personal about them. Again, for example, they're strong academically. I come into the interview with the background. Okay, are they really nice people, or they just robot, or very bookish, or very too much nerdy, so to speak. So if they're able to give that to me in the first 5-10 minutes, they're really open up, they're smiling, they talk about their hobbies in a very nice way, and they have tell me about stuff that they like outside of medicine, and it really makes sense, and it felt genuine. So that's it. That's my candidate. They're strong academically and they're also very nice persons, and I can easily talk to them and I like them, and then I just put it in there. So again, knowing yourself and knowing what are the things that you really need to highlight in the interview, I think that's a skill that maybe not too many candidates think about. Because just be mindful that the program directors, they really made a lot of time reading your application, and they already have some idea about you from that application. Try to think, when someone read the application, what questions they might ask, right? Sometimes this is very clear. For example, I graduated two years ago. Of course, that should be most likely would be the focus of the interview. So I should guide myself into that direction. How can I convince them that just because of this recent graduation bias, I'm still a good candidate, right? So expect that during the interview. If you're strong academically, don't pay too much attention to it. We know that you're strong academically already. Try to focus on the other aspect, right? So yeah, it takes a little bit of effort, but you really have to kind of expect what will happen during the interview based on your application, so to speak. But yeah, it's again, that human to human connection. If you're able to make that during the 15 minutes, I think you'll get there.
Wow. Oh, thank you so much, Nicholas. And you are giving us wisdom. Lots and
I'm trying. It's really hard, honestly. It's really hard, but sometimes it's hard to explain. But it's I'm trying to make it in a little bit more of a useful points for the candidate, when they're preparing for the interviews.
You have talked about why this program, and just my interaction with a lot of applicants, this is one of the questions that trips them. Because for most IMGs, they want to succeed, and most of us don't have a special connection to any program. We're coming from far and wide, and we can apply anywhere, and we can thrive anywhere. So we typically just look at the program and ask ourselves a question: do this program, do they take IMGs? If the answer is yes, then we're likely to apply. And so when that question comes up, why this program? A lot of us have, a generic answer. How would you advise us to navigate that?
Right. No, that's a good point. That's a valid point, and that's what probably I was thinking about also, like 12, actually 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago, thinking about it when I applied to the residency. And yes, of course, we understand that it's a very high-stake process, and at the end of the day, you're like, as an IMD, hey, I want to get in, and then I can prove myself, right? Which is okay, but since I would like the candidate to think of it, especially IMDs, hey, you really have put a lot of effort to get to this stage, so don't deprive yourself of very few extra steps, very few extra efforts to try to figure out something about the program that you apply to that is a little bit unique to that program. So How do you do that? Of course, going over the website, that's important. Try to get some connection to that program somehow. Try to, even if the program is in around your area, sometimes even just searching around it helps. If you know someone that had graduated from the program, you can have a phone call with them to get a direct perspective. That would be useful. Try to search the faculty, like the faculty they mentioned in the website. Just go and search them, see what if they have research, what type of research they do, where else they are involved, and what they really their interest is, because that's really given impression that this candidate really made some effort to kind of know us as faculty and know the program, and that's kind of important. So again, giving all the generic answer is okay. It might give you like the pass mark, but again, you have made a lot of effort to get to this stage. Why not making a little bit more extra effort to try to personalize that answer? And if for example, when in our website they not necessarily mentioning that I have interest in point of care ultrasound, right? So when a candidate bring that up, hey, one of the things that I like about the program is I noticed that you really have a lot of work in POCUS, and I like POCUS. I feel like it's a good tool for future physicians, and I like to kind of learn about it and learn from you about it. So if you can tell me if we have any POCUS curriculum in your program. Oh, that's impressive. I know that they looked me up, they Googled my name or whatever they did, and they found that I have some research about POCUS, and they, this is, hopefully it's genuine, of course. That would be the best match if they're really interested in POCUS, rather than they just saw it, and which is okay probably, but you can feel it as you're talking to them. But still, at least I appreciate the effort that they went and tried to know the faculty that they are going to interview. And again, if you're able to make it personal, that definitely helps. I remember one of the things that a personal statement that was talking about that before, that was really drew my attention, is actually the candidate mentioned the program name in the personal statement, St. Agnes Medical Center. So I know it's hard to kind of, it needs a lot of effort to kind of make like multiple, a personal statement and tailor each one to the top programs maybe you want to apply to. But you know what? I think it's worth doing, honestly, because as I go through the personal statement, because I don't see that quite often. When I go through the personal statement and they mention, hey, I'm really interested in St. Agnes Medical Center. I feel like it's, I fulfill a lot of my goals, and, I've learned this about that, all this, that full paragraph about personal program. That caught my eye, and I felt like, oh, this is genuine, and I feel like this is, they really interested in us, and they made some effort to make a separate personal statement, submit it to my program. And I remember, honestly, I remember doing something like that a long time ago when I was like applying, because I felt like it's really will make that connection. I didn't do it though, but when I saw it a couple of times here, I was impressed. I felt like this person made some effort, and they really trying to know us maybe. And you know what? I'm just gonna invite them.
Wow, a little bit of effort can go a long way. That's nice. That's great. So we've talked about how you can personalize your personal statement, and that helps you, and how you can personalize your widest program, and that helps you. How about letters of interest?
Right.
Do they help? Do they hurt? When do we send them?
Yeah.
So like,
you mean like maybe after the interview?
Yes, to hear any program. They're waiting, they're interested in that program, but they've not yet received an interview. They want to send a letter of interest. What's your take on that?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't feel like it's making any difference. I feel like most of the program, they have their criteria, they have the thing that they look at in applications, and I don't think a letter of interest will highlight anything different than what you already put in your applications. Because if you think that the letter has something special, it already should be reflected in your application. And honestly, there's a lot of areas that help you highlight the things that you think are important to you. So instead of just putting it in the letter of interest, just put it in your application, and trust the programs to look at it. And again, most of the letters that I received, when I read them, there's really nothing else added to what's already in the application. So, and be careful about kind of, I don't know, maybe I can call it review fatigue. These programs, when they just have a lot of letters, they're just gonna ignore them, and they're just gonna follow their application review process. They're not gonna deviate from that because of the letter of interest or the email that you send them. So yeah, I don't think they helped, honestly. Even after the interview, a lot of programs, some of them actually tell you not to even send them a letter of interest, because they already made up their mind after the interview whether they're gonna rank you or not. I don't know if a letter will deviate them from that. So it might not harm for sure. I know it's short to write. But again, if you if you don't do it, I don't think it will harm your application in
And
any
so
way.
just coming back to interviews we're talking about, I know that there's a whole checklist and when you have to like score here, and probably that checklist is like very official. But if we were to say what would be the top 3 important things in that checklist that every applicant should know about, what would they be?
Yeah, of course. I would say, obviously, if I can understand them well, they're talking not too fast, not too slow. They're very clear in articulating what they want to say. I think that's important because this is part of the communication skills. It's very key. So that's the first thing that, of course, comes to mind during the interview process, right? So they should really keep that in mind. They should. And again, it's not about the accent, right? Because I just want to understand you. If you even like very fluent, but you're talking too fast, I'm still not able to understand you, and that might work against you. So make yourself clear. I think that's the key. And then, of course, we talked about the professionalism and really having the setup ready in terms of the attire, the image, the background. All these are very important to make the interview process easy. And then that eye connection and that person to person deep understanding, and you're really listening to me, you're answering exactly what I'm asking, and you're able to smile, you're able to connect with me. I think that what really would be the top thing that come to mind when I put the evaluations. And of course they usually ask about other stuff like connection of that candidate to the area, to the city, to the program, and how strong is the letter of recommendation and all that. But really, for the interview perspective, I think that would be the top 3 ones: professionalism, and the language and understanding and communication skills. And then it's really kind of that connection. They were able to express themselves and listen to you and answer exactly what you're asking them.
That's great. It sounds so simple, but yet so complex.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to explain, but I think probably like a lot of these personal training, when they do that, personal training in communication skills and how to communicate with these people. I feel like in medicine, this is something that we probably need to pay attention to. We don't do it quite often until the interview time, and then we're just at last. But I think we should practice that more.
Because almost like 70% of the work we do is just communication with the patient, community, with the nurses, with our colleagues. Communication.
Absolutely. And for me as hospitalist, this is, most of the errors that happen in the hospital is because of lack of communication. So I pay attention to that. I really want to feel that this person can really communicate with me, can listen to me, I can listen to them, I understand them, they understand me. So that's really the whole purpose of the.
It's very profound that you brought up this talk about most of the hospital errors because of lack of communication. Wow. Okay, so now we are talking about the interviews. I guess the next question will be just talking about ranking, the decision making, and how the committees sit down and talk about a patient and talk about an applicant. What would you say when 2 applicants, applicant A and applicant B, they have the same profile, maybe the same scores? Now, what determines who is ultimately ranked higher?
Yeah, this is where the interview comes to play, right? Because a lot of times we see a lot of strong applicants, but you get that feeling that you're probably not high in their program list. You get that feeling. They're not very interested. They didn't ask many questions. Their answers was too short. They even might not have that direct eye contact. Sometimes you can feel it, and that maybe they have like very high scores. They have like from really good medical school, but they just want to improve their chances of ranking and matching. That's why they apply to many programs. They have many interviews, and you are not maybe at top of the list, right? So in that case, the interview experience might not go very well, and I will probably write that in my recommendations after the interview. I didn't feel connected to this person. They didn't feel very interested in us. Maybe okay to rank, but I don't really feel strong about them working with them next year. I don't feel like they're really interested in me. Versus someone who is really, I had a really nice experience with them during the interview. I enjoyed talking to them. The 15 minutes really went too fast. I actually didn't really realize them. And then I just, I wish I could talk to them a little bit more. I would put that in my comments, at the end of the interview to the program director, and to kind of, hey, I really like this person, and be happy to round with them based on just 15 minutes that I have interviewed. And then, of course, hopefully there's no other red flags in their application. If that happens, and if we get similar perspective from other faculty who interviewed them, then they're going to go high in the rank. So I think that interview experience really can help divide strong candidates who look strong in their application, but one was able to connect the other not so great in connecting with them.
It almost sounds like the better you are on paper, the more you have to do an interview, though. That's what it sounds like. Because if you do so well on your scores, then there's that question about, are you a people's person, or were you spending your entire time just studying and not, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, true. Again, it comes down to knowing yourself. Try to know your application in a way that if you get an interview, you kind of expect what they're going to ask you about. Of course, programs are different. People do things differently. Honestly, for example, some programs ask clinical questions, right? We don't do that. Some programs focus on just really chatting and they just want to get to know you. Some of them really want to know if you're really interested in this city or this state or not. These kind of things. So programs are different, but at the end of the day, you really have to try to figure out what they are going to ask you based on your application. What are the gaps in your application that it's easy to recognize by the program, and this is most likely what they are going to ask you about. So try to figure that out before the interview, and try to be ready to answer that question, because that will make you appear ready and connected and really understanding the process, and you're mature enough to realize the things that people will ask you based on your application.
That's interesting. And so I was going to ask, what are the intangible qualities that separate applicants? But I guess you already comprehensively exhausted that. That's oh, wow. And we've kind of talked about applicants that have like really great scores and great CVs. How about the applicants that their scores are okay, maybe even some red flags, but they are also here for an interview? How would you advise those kind of applicants to connect and also at the same time address their red flags?
Yeah, that's what we want. Definitely, and realizing the strengths of your application is important, because the candidate just mentioned it maybe like not on the top academically. Then you know that you need the interview. If you get an interview, it means your academics are okay for sure, and there's still something in your application that really makes them interested to invite you for an interview. So you should take advantage of that. So this is your time to kind of really shine up, right? This is 15 minutes. They give you 15 minutes to tell them, I'm a very good communicator. I connect with people very well. I know my deficiencies, and I'm ready to talk about them during the interview. I know what questions you might have in your mind based on my application, and I have prepared some answers for that. So that's really your time to try to shine out. If you think your application is not too strong, but you still have interview, then you really should really pay attention to this 15 minutes. This is your time to really move yourself a little bit forward, because otherwise, if you didn't impress the interviewer, then you lost your chance to have them put you a little bit higher in the rank. How do you do that? Again, by expecting the questions that they're gonna ask you. Be very professional. Pay attention to the details that we talked about in terms of attire, background, your voice. Pay attention to your language. Make sure that you listen to the exact question they're asking you, not to come with your own agenda to kind of force it to the interviewer. And just again, eye contact, smiling, a little bit of humor here and there, and asking questions. Show interest during the interview, and also make that extra effort that we talked about, knowing the program, knowing the faculty, searching them. Try to come up with something close to them and ask them about it. That is not available in the website. That tells me you really looked outside the website and try to search for more information, because you realize this is your chance to really shine and show yourself. So if I felt that you really made some effort, I will appreciate that, and then they can consider you higher in the rank, because I know that you're very mature and you put some effort and you're keen and you're taking it seriously, and you really want to push your application forward, knowing that it's not very strong to begin with.
And was there anyone, like any applicant that you remember in the past, who wasn't necessarily the strongest applicants on paper, but their interview was really good and you wanted them to come to the program? Can you tell us?
No, yeah, absolutely. And honestly, one of the things that we were reforming the interview experience sheet, and one of the things I asked them to put is really this exact thing that you mentioned. I'm really interested in person. I really want them to come to our program around with them. And that's all really based on the interview experience. Maybe they're not like 270s in their scores, but I enjoyed talking to them. I just felt like they're really interested in their internal medicine. They liked it. I felt it. They really were able to kind of really be easy going when I ask difficult questions. They're ready, and they have good eye contact. They're very professional, and I just enjoy talking to them. So I would just click on that item. Hey, I feel like if I work with this person, if he's in my team doing rounding, it seems like going to be a lot of fun having them around. So it's that connection. It's really 15 minutes. Could really, I think, for those who are like borderline in the application, could really make a lot of difference, making the faculty interested in seeing you next year.
Average applications, 60% the chance. That's good to know. That's really, really good to know. Okay, so we've talked about people with green flags, people with red flags. What would you say, as someone who has been interviewing for a long time, what are the silent red flags that applicants may give off during interviews without knowing it?
Yeah, I think again it comes down to this point that we talked about. For example, the setup for the interview didn't feel right. They're not too casual, maybe. Sometimes they even may not show, a lot of interest. Like I have one candidate during the interview, for some reasons, it seemed like they're close to the window. And during the interview, they were looking at something outside and they make a comment about it, like a bird was in the tree or something. And then they came back and they continued talking. I was like, what's going on here? Yes, you can be distracted. That's fine. But, you should at least apologize or mention or say something, right? So that's kind of for me was definitely a red flag. There's some miscommunication here. I don't know what happened, but it just didn't feel right. So yeah, I think he probably wasn't aware of it, because I think if he or she was aware, they would say, hey, so sorry, I got distracted a little bit here. But yeah, and then he didn't continue talking, right? But even that didn't happen. So he left me literally thinking like, what's going on there? So this is definitely a red flag. And if there's anything that you mentioned that's really kind of contradict what you said in your application, that's for me also a red flag. And honestly, I feel like I probably did that before in one of the interviews when I was applying for residency. It was hard for me to get an observership experience. It didn't exist. It's really hard to have anyone come to shadow you. So the only time I was able to do that is just I was shadowing a outpatient clinic, just a couple of times. I didn't put that in my application because I felt like, just twice. I didn't feel like it's really, maybe the programs would not be interested in it. It's not a strong U.S. clinical experience. So I didn't put it in. But during the interview, they asked me that question about my U.S. clinical experience, and somehow I just remembered that. I just mentioned it. But then after the interview, I realized, well, I didn't say that in my application. And they probably realized that. And they were like, well, what? If this is a U.S. clinical experience, you should put it in your application. Maybe you just made it up. Maybe it didn't happen. So I felt like probably harmed my interview. So yeah, the interview, whatever you say in the interview, you should match what you have in the application. I think that's important. Always make sure that there's no such discrepancy. This is a big red flag. And of course, if there's something that in your application that people usually flag out, you should be ready to talk about it. Like if there's a big gap, 2 or 3 years, we're not really sure what you're doing, you should be ready to answer that question, right? And of course, people always talk about how many trials for the USMLE exams you had. So that might also come up during the discussion about academics. So feel free don't feel shy to talk about it. Just bring it up, even if it's just it's an experience that you had. Just let us know that you benefited from it, and it makes you stronger. You realized, unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention to it, and that's why I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared well for the exam, and maybe that's why my score wasn't that good. But I learned from that experience. I felt like from that perspective, I really felt like whenever I do something, I made myself do it 2 or 3 times before I indulge into it, and it made me more self-aware of my capabilities, and I start practicing more, and I start really make more efforts for the things that are important to me. Okay, that's fine. I like that. It's telling me that you learn from that experience, and you're becoming a better person because of that, and that's okay. So yeah, but you have to kind of really be ready to kind of tackle these gaps in your application. So if you're not able to, that's for me also a red flag. It means you didn't make enough effort to learn from these experiences, and easily you can make them again in the future. So I don't want to take that risk and get you to my program if you haven't learned from these experiences. So.
Very, very educative. The question that would be follow up is for those people who have red flag, for example, they have an attempt on the USMLE and it didn't come up during the interviews. Do they bring it up or do they let it slide? What should the applicant do? So if I failed on my USMLE and I'm interviewing and the interview seems to be going okay, but I haven't brought up the matter, I haven't brought up the topic, you haven't brought it up to me. Do I?
No, I would. If the question is mostly related to academics, I will probably bring it up because, I mean, let's be honest. For the residency matching, we know that the academic performance is important, but we know that the trials are something that most, if not all, the programs look at, right? And it's available, it's there, it's easy to look. So if you feel like they're asking about it, they're like coming close to it, it might actually be they really want you to talk about it, and maybe they don't want to ask about it directly. Maybe they just feel like maybe you're going to be a little bit too stressed about it, or they want to give you opportunity outside of that aspect. So I think if they come close to that gap, I will still bring it up during that discussion. So for example, if they ask about the academics, how do you feel about your performance in medical school, and like your general perspective on internal medicine, how do you feel about your background generally? For me, that's kind of a probing question that they notice something in my academics that they want me to address, and I want to take that opportunity to tell them, yes, it went fine. I think during my medical school, I know that I failed this rotation, or you can say like in that rotation, I didn't really do well as much as I wanted to. If you don't, feel comfortable bringing the word fail. I was hoping that I'm going to do better in that rotation, but unfortunately, I wasn't well prepared, and that's really an experience that I learned a lot from. I learned that I have to take my future more seriously, and I felt like I have to. Whenever I feel like I'm not ready, I have to make some effort to prepare more and give myself more time before I take that exam, for example. So in that perspective, I know that you learn from that experience. And yes, of course, things happen. We're not perfect. We're not really expecting everyone to be perfect. And the exam is just telling me your performance during these 8 hours. I understand that, outside 8 hours, you might be a different person than what the score reflects, right? But you should be able to tell me that. You should be able to reflect that to me in the interview, to assure me that you learn from that experience. Otherwise, it will still be a red flag for me. And if I have it without explanation, I wouldn't feel comfortable, putting you in the rank because you didn't really tell me. I don't know if you learned from that experience or not, right? But if you bring it up and you told me, you convinced me that you learned from that experience, I might swipe it and then just, okay, you know what? I will scratch that out. I think he was able to convince me that he matured enough to kind of learn from that experience. And I think he can do better during the board exam or during the residency. So, okay, I'll take that. I'll put him in the rank.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. And I know that I'm taking your time. Let me just quickly wrap this up so I can allow you have your... It's sunny right now in Fresno, right?
It is, yeah. It's cloudy still. For the last few days, we have a lot of rain. But today is actually much more sunny than the last couple of days. So it's nice weather.
Let me let you go out, take some vitamin D. Okay, so just a couple of questions more about, research and professional development and long-term success. I think the first question is, in your program, in your experience, how does meaningful research involvement during or before residency, how does that influence how an applicant is perceived?
Yeah, research activity I think is important. It's definitely when there's only 0 item or 1 item in the research, that's kind of questionable. But again, we always would like to have a holistic approach. So that might maybe lower your overall score a little bit. But if you have like 5-6 items, for me personally, I would like to have these items kind of related to internal medicine in one way or another. I really quickly scan them and see if it's like a deep, basic science research or clinical research. Generally, I personally prefer clinical research because it's more related to what I do. And Are you really just part of that? Your name is just there, or really you are the corresponding or first author? Because I think that also helps. If you are the first author or corresponding author for most of these items, I think that's good. It makes that you were involved more in these activities, and you have at least some research background. So when I ask you to do a case report or a basic a case series or a basic review, you have some background about it. Now, we still understand that, especially for international medical graduates, they might not have all full opportunity to really do like a full-blown research, and that's why any sort of even like poster presentations, any meetings, the thing that may be not like as strong as a publication in a peer-reviewed journal, right? We still consider that as some scholarly activity that you put some effort to, and we appreciate it, especially if you are the first author or the presenting author, because that makes me think that you're really involved and you put more effort to it, not just having your name in it. So yeah, it's very valuable. It's, again, if you're having like 20, 25 research items, okay, that's good, it helps, but at the end of the day, if it's not really very clinical research, well, sometimes people who have really a lot of research background, they might struggle clinically. Then when they come to patient care at the bedside, maybe they might have some issues. So during the interview, I will try to figure out if this person seems to be okay clinically as well. I already know that you have a lot of good research background. That's good. I'm not going to have hard time asking you to do quality improvement project or something because you already know the stuff. But, if I'm going to struggle with you at the bedside and, making orders or like taking care of patients and, making sure that you have all your notes in a timely fashion, these kind of things, then that's an issue too, right? So during the interview, I will try to figure out if your clinical acumen is okay. So I'm trying to ask you, how was your experience with the rotation that you had with this person who is an intensivist or hospitalist? Tell me about your experience with Epic or like AMR. How was it? This kind of thing. To try to get a sense that you're also okay clinically, because you have a lot of research background. That's okay, but I want to tackle the other aspects. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Just having research, but being an active participant in research, that's great. But then not so much research that it hurts your clinical knowledge, which is by far the most important. That's also the highlights. That's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's nothing that under research items or one or two, it makes you think maybe really the candidate didn't make much effort to try to be involved in poster presentations and abstracts, which will take some effort. So I would like to see that you're making these steps. So having something there definitely helps. It doesn't have to be really full blown, 15, 20 items, peer-reviewed journals. It doesn't have to be like that.
Okay, great. And then I guess the other question was going to be, in the applicants that have lots of research, those are probably more likely to want to do some form of fellowship.
Right.
As an IMG, when I was applying, I was told every single time that when you go to a program and they ask you, do you want to do fellowship? It's best to not say you want to do fellowship, just because they may say, we can't give this guy what he wants, so they may not rank you as high. So that's what the notion everybody carried. And so what's that?
Yeah, it's again, maybe programs are different, but to be honest with you, my personal take on that is, and honestly, I've noticed that a lot of candidates are really smart, right? I mean, obviously these people, like, they went through medical school and a lot of challenges. They're really smart candidates, right? So when they answer this question, a lot of them, I noticed, it's almost universal that they keep the door open. Keeping the door open is almost a universal answer. I think it's a smart answer, to be honest with you. They can, I mean, honestly, the interview, I want to know you. So if you're really interested in cardiology, yes, it's a competitive fellowship. We know that. We understand that. And actually, that's actually helped me asking you, okay, you know that it's a competitive fellowship. What have you made to make yourself a good candidate for cardiology fellowship, right? So it's for me personally, it's okay to tell me what you're thinking. Actually, I personally feel like you probably need to have some view about what you want to do after residency, because it makes me think that you're really well planned and you're really thinking ahead and you have goals. Goal-directed physicians and they do better than non-goal-directed physicians generally, right? So for me, it's okay. Actually, I encourage people to tell me what they have in mind, but keeping the door open is almost always a good answer, because it means you're well-rounded, you understand that residency things change and you might have a different perspective and you're ready to change. You're ready to make that change as you go through your internship. So yeah, and again, people are smart. These kids are really getting smarter and smart, and they know how to answer these questions. So
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. I was going to ask this the last question, and before I let you go.
Hey.
And then the last question is going to be, if you could offer one message to every applicant entering the interview season right now, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say really trust the process, trust yourself. Again, just be yourself. Be yourself. Your experience that you carry with you, through your journey is unique. Nobody did what you did throughout your career, because it's just you who has experienced you, nobody else. So just be yourself and just have confidence in yourself, and just prepare. Do what you can to really be ready for the process, and make yourself really a better candidate, and trust the process. Trust yourself. Don't forget about your well-being. This is really important. I think don't get yourself immersed too much, so that you forget about yourself and your own health and your own hobbies and your families, your friends. These things are important, and I think it's give you really good perspective about. Sometimes if you don't pay attention to your health and your friends and your other life, it will have some effect on you even during the interview. Being tired and fatigued. This program directors can feel it, can sense it, right? So you wanna take care of yourself as well. Take care of your family. Take care of your people around you, to make yourself a better person. Because at the end of the day, it's about you, not just academics. It's about your personal perspective, your beliefs, your background, where you come from. It's important to pay attention to these things, and consciously or subconsciously, it will help you do better, during the application, during the interview, and also even just sorting out what programs really fit you. Because it's a two-street way. This process, yes, of course, as IMDs, I want to just get there, right? Anything, just get me to the program, and then I will, do my best and strive. I understand that, but still, at the end of the day, if you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews, you do yourself a favor and try to do your best to figure out which really program help you the most. What program will really help you achieve your goals and make you a better physician? Try to tease that out during this process, not just selling yourself. Try the programs also would like to, see yourself as someone who would like, do this program really deserve for me to be there? Honestly, it's if you think that way, I think you'll be more likely to sort out the things that can help you be a better candidate. Seeing it that way, I think it's good. And also, some programs will appreciate that. If you ask me questions that is telling me that you really want to understand us, because you want to know if this program fits me or not, we appreciate that. Yeah, we value that, and we think it's important, because at the end of the day, I don't want someone to be here. I think they fit, but when they come here, they realize, well, this is not really what I thought it would be. Well, we give you a 15-minute opportunity to figure that out, or even more. 15 is just a faculty interview, right? But you have 2, 3, 4 hours talking to our coordinators, talking to our resident, to try to figure out, whether this program is really, fitting you or not. So why not reflecting that during the 15-minute interview as well? You ask questions that really telling me you want to figure out if the program fits me or not, right? So yeah, I know for IMD it's challenging. It's a little bit not easy, but you should keep that in mind as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hassan. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for. I know that you're busy, and I'm grateful for coming. Thank you so much for all the wisdom, and thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure talking to you. And
the pleasure was all mine. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you so much.
Take care. Good luck to you with your next rotation. I don't know if it's angiogram or what is it?
I'm currently in nuclear medicine. Next, I go to the wards, and that's next week, and it's very chaotic. So I only have after today, I have no time again. I'm completely because I'm on all this.
That's cool.
But thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Maybe we can. Again, I'm interested in cardiac focus and general focus as well. So who knows? Maybe we can get something.
Yeah. I really. So that was one of the strengths of my program. My program we had a dedicated attending So we had a 4+1 schedule during our clinic week. In the mornings of our clinic, we have a purpose lecture 3 times a week. So that was really good. That was one of the strongest. So now we've exported that skill, and now every single time the patient has chest pain, I have to do an echocardiogram on the bedside. It's not really hard for me. I just hit the ground running with that. So that's really good. So yeah, focus skills is invaluable. It's something that every person should have. We actually were doing a QI project to have the residents who would use the focus for rapid response. But I was just before we finished. I don't know what's going on right now.
That's good. That's good to know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. You too. Good luck to you. Bye-bye.